In 1852, James G Swan began living amongst the Indians on Willapa Bay, 25 miles north of the mouth of the Columbia. He gave this account of the practice of cranial distortion. The most singular custom among these people is that of flattening or compressing the head of the infant. Where this custom originated is hard to tell. Lewis and Clark state that it is not peculiar to that part of the continent, since it was among the first objects that struck the attention of Columbus. But, they add, wherever it began, or what was its origin, the practice is now universal among the tribes west of the Rocky Mountains, in the region of the Columbia, and it is confined to them. For, with the exception of the Snake Indians, who are called Flatheads, the fashion is not known to the east of that barrier. The method adopted to produce this deformity is as follows. A cradle, like a bread trough, is hollowed out from a piece of cedar, and according to the taste of the parent, is either fancifully carved or is as simple in its artistic appearance as a pig's trough. This cradle, or canim, or canoe, as they term it, is lined inside with the softest of cedar bark, well pounded and cleaned so as to be as soft as wool. On this, the infant is placed as soon as it is born, and covered with the softest cloth or skins they can find. A little pillow at one end slightly elevates the head, and a cushion of wool or feathers laid on its forehead. An oblong square piece of wood or bark, having one end fastened by strings to the head of the canoe, is now brought down on the cushion and firmly secured by strings tied to the sides of the cradle, and causing the cushion to press upon the child's forehead. The infant is then so bound into the cradle that it cannot stir hand or foot, and in this position it remains a year or more, only being taken out to be washed and for exercise. This pressure on the forehead causes the head to expand laterally, giving an expression of great broadness to the face, but I never perceived that it affected the mind at all, although it disfigures them very much in appearance. I have seen several whose heads had not been thus pressed, and they were smart, intelligent, and quite good-looking. But they were laughed at by the others, who asserted that their mothers were too lazy to shape their heads properly. This flattening of the head appears to be a sort of mark of royalty or badge of aristocracy, for their slaves are not permitted to treat their children thus. But, although I have seen persons with and others without this deformity, I never could discover any superiority of intellect of one over the other. The practice of cranial distortion wasn't just confined to the Americas. It was also practiced in the Pacific, Europe, Africa, China, and Japan. Skulls found around the world show the practice was at one time widespread. This modification to the growing skull has generally been used to mark the social position of an individual in a manner visible to and recognized by other members of the society. The modifications are interpreted very differently from one culture to the next and demonstrate different ideals of beauty and deformity.